Hey YouTube, my name is Kenny. Thank you for checking out my channel. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is talking about the YFZ450 motor. So we did pick this machine up down in Parkersburg, West Virginia area. Turned out to be a little bit more of a basket case than what I originally thought, but we have all the pieces for the motor here, and we're going to go ahead and get it reinstalled. Some of it's going to be voiceover, some of it's not, but you know, we're going to get it all together and then get it assembled. So if you can focus on the build, the motor, and not all the stuff behind it, will be good. But we got that new stand that my wife had purchased for me for our anniversary, which I absolutely love. But this is the YFZ split down. We have the new crank in here. Difference is, old crank was broken and busted. The new crank is actually the upgrade. We're going to do the WR450 crank. Lighter, same size. WR piston is what's going to go up here, and that is going to get us at a true 449, give us 10 more cc's, and it's going to bump our compression up to 12.5 to 1. Highest compression to keep us on pump gas, but we got that in here. Not really much more we need to do but get the other case side closed up and make sure it's all going to fit up good. All right, so this is the replacement case that we have down here. The other one was busted, so we're going to try to get a quick little picture of that. But this is the other side that we're going to close up and put on here. However, this one thing I forgot to show a minute ago was we did have a broken area right here. So when the piston or the connecting rod had broke, it shot through here and it broke the starter. But it also cracked this area and put a little break here. Now, there is no break here in the actual case. So we lucked out there. But it did push that bolt up and it caused a crack there. So I have sanded out up real good, used JB Weld, formed it so it doesn't even really stand out or look any different. But we're going to go ahead and put the anaerobic gasket maker around this whole thing here. We have it all cleaned up. And we're going to go ahead and see if this other case side half will go on there easily. All right, yeah, I know I do look a little bit crazy kind of out here, hot day, humid, but we did get the sides tacked up pretty good. We got the anaerobic gasket maker on there. I did put some grease around all the little connection areas just to make sure things slide in a little bit easier. And I have my rubber mallet down here, but I kind of broke it, so don't be judging me. I'm going to be buying a new one tomorrow. I just wanted to get these case halves closed up, get that crank moving around just to make sure I'm good, and that'll make me happy for today, and then we'll continue this video. So now I have the rod up top. That's on. Just gonna put our bolts and screws into the rear. I'm just gonna snug them up. So these would go down to about 8 foot-pounds, but I just snug them up by hand. So And one of the good things about the anaerobic is it cleans up really easy. So you just wipe it off. No need to wait for it to dry because it's not going to dry when exposed to air. So it will seat up and set up in the cases in between. But this stuff out here will stay tacky. So easy cleanup. While we're in this position, we're going to go ahead and put this shaft back in that we took out. So we did go ahead and get the arm in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to put blue Loctite on all the bolts that we put in here. And we're just going to tighten them down real good. And you have to remember, if it's going into this cast right here, it's not going to be super, super tight. So the blue Loctite is what's going to help us out. You don't want to over torque this and then tear things up. So we have the drum. See that little pin right there, that little notch? It's going to go onto the little catch down here. So we're just going to make sure we get that on there correctly. That's on there. So this part has a bunch of little pieces, little spring loaded. So so it's essentially springs behind these little caps. And these will go in there and this keeps pressure pushing them out. So I'm going to slide it just in there so it sits somewhere. $54. $36. 56. All right, so we're looking good. We have these case side covers powder coated. They're charcoal gray, so it looks a lot better. Everything is in there. We have the cylinder in and the OEM 12.5 to 1 compression piston from the WR cylinder. We also have the crank, so it is going to be 10 cc's higher than the original 04. We also replaced the valves, all of them, intake and exhaust. And I think we're ready to just go ahead and put that head on and get the timing on, and then we should be pretty much done outside of closing that side up. I have to do the oil mod, and we should be getting close to wrapping this up. All right, new powdered cap on, just dirty. Got everything on there, got this torque down as it should be. So when you torque it down, it's supposed to be the same thing as the WR. You put it down to 22, loosen them up, put it down to 14, loosen it up. Then you do 90-degree turn all the way around and another 90-degree turn, total of 180 degrees around, and then it's tightened down there. Timing windows are on. Up and down, it's a hash, not the H. And the dot here and the dot up top, dot here and dot up top, make sure that those are lined up. And then use your ratchet and you should be able to slowly turn it, feel the compression stroke kick in, then you're good to go. All right. All right, so we're good. Yeah, so we went ahead, we got the motor in the frame, at least the bottom end. And if you're wondering, the reason why I go ahead and I do it this way is a lot of the times whenever you get the motor completely assembled, you have to be pretty particular when you're getting it installed, or else you're going to beat up your powder coat, and in my case, some paint. So what I am going to do right now is have footage of the YFZ450 top end that I did. It's not the YFZ motor that's going to be going into this machine. However, it is built exactly the same, so there's going to be no problems with that. And the reason being is because we had that heat wave come through here, West Virginia area, and it was like 100 and something degrees. And, you know, I'm not trying to get demonetized or whatnot, but I did all the footage with no shirt on, and the fan is intensely messing up my audio. So we're going to just do a voiceover exactly what we've done, show a little bit of diagrams, and then get you rolling in this video. So here's the new gasket. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to actually put it on here with the other gasket, a little bit thicker space altogether, I would assume, because I don't know what gasket this one is. Maybe the tolerance just isn't as quite as thick. It should be a little bit thicker, maybe. So 2 of them wouldn't hurt. So when I do my rings, I typically follow the same instructions that Wisco gives you. With this being the exhaust side, the upper ring end gap is on here, second ring end gap here. When it comes down to the oil expansion rings, the lower one, is 45 degrees between here. The upper one is 45 degrees there, and the expansion ring is perpendicular. So upper, lower, well, upper ring, second ring, lower oil ring, upper oil ring, oil expansion ring is what I typically use. So we do have it all back there. So the bottom of the cylinder is also beveled. There's a little bevel. So we're gonna see if we can just subtly squeeze the rings together and slide this on down there and get it back on. Some people do buy a tool. I don't have one. Okay, so I showed you how to take everything apart. Putting it back together was just in reverse. After I got the cylinder on, I slid the head on with no problem. And then the bolts went back in. I torqued them all down, these two. These case bolts are typically at about 8, so I did those. Same for here. I loosened up the cam chain tensioner because it's going to have to go in when I put the cam chains back on. And I went ahead and put this oil line back on. But for the most part, this is the end process with this. And we're going to go ahead and get our cases, our case covers completely done so we can get this motor completely back together. So I know a lot has happened. We have the stator side cover back on. We have the clutch cover back on. We have the chains back in, the cam chains, exhaust and intake chains back on. We did take the cam chain tensioner back out because we're going to make sure we have the timing correct. So if you line up this hole, you can take these two off and you use, I think, a 14 millimeter and turn this over. The single dash is lined up with this mark here. Once that is lined up, you will see that you have 2 dots. 1, 2. These ones need to be in the air. One's in the air. So if you have it lined up and you don't see one in the air, it's lined up wrong. So you level one of them with here, having this one up. On the exhaust side, you level this one here. So there's no tension on the chain yet, but and this one up. So now we have it all at top dead center. We have our cams lined up, and we are going to button up this motor. All right, so we are done officially. So we have the motor closed up. Just a couple things of why I decided to do what I did. We knew we were going to need a crank, right? So crank was just set in stone. I had a decision to decide to buy a YFZ450 crank or a WR450 crank. And when I look online, the WR seems like it is an upgrade. So a couple things starting from the beginning. The 04 YFZ450 is a 434cc motor. And that is kind of shy of the 449. In 2006, they bumped it up to 449, which is 10 cc's more. Now, if you did the YFZ crank for the 04 and you were going to upgrade it, you do want to do the 06 and you want to do the oil mod. I did the oil mod and I did the upgraded crank from the 06 exchangeable is the WR450 one, right? So the WR450 crank gave us a little bit more stroke and it also increased our compression. So the compression is now 12.5 to 1. The 04 compression was 11.9 to 1. So you had a 439cc 11.9 to 1 compression setup. On the 06, you had a 449 with a 11.2 to 1 compression. But with the upgrade and everything, now I'm running a 449 and a 12.5 to 1 compression, which is the highest compression that you can run and stay on pump gas. So even though this is going to look similar and it's just all factory parts exchanged from the WR, we now have more CCs and higher compression. It's going to be amazing, right? So I'm pretty sure we're good. What we're going to do is close this video out. First, we're going to see if we can get this thing started and turned over, but who knows where it's going to go. If it does, we're good. If it doesn't, we're not. All right, everyone, thank you for checking out this video. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.